Details on a series of bizarre attacks, dozens of unexplained illnesses, including head injuries, forced the U.S. to bring home diplomatic staff from China and the U.S. Embassy in Cuba. Speculation at the time was that it was some sort of sonic attack. But now the scientist who led the investigation tells the New York Times the main culprit is likely some kind of microwave weapon. CNN's Patrick Ottman is following the story from Havana. So, Patrick, what happened at the U.S. Embassy that led authorities to suspect that it was indeed an attack? And now we're talking about these, a microwave weapon.
It's still very much a diplomatic mystery, but let me walk you through what is a very complicated case. It all began November 2016, right after the U.S. presidential election, and that is when U.S. diplomats based here in Havana said they begin to experience these really strange symptoms, often at night, sometimes while they're in bed, asleep in their homes or their hotel rooms here in Cuba, and they said that they would feel nausea, hear loud sounds, hearing loss, but if they got up out of bed, if they left the room where they were in, it would stop. If they walked back into where they had felt this incident, this attack as they described it, it would start again. So they felt that they were being targeted with some sort of mysterious beam of energy.
The U.S. says none of them are considered confirmed cases.
Some people have suggested that maybe it's all psychosomatic mass hysteria.
Science doesn't lie. These scientists and these doctors and specialists have been working very hard and long on us. There is no way you can fake this.
The recording gives us the first tangible sense of what it was like for these American government workers in Havana who were hearing these unexplained sounds in their residences and later developed physical symptoms. Americans who heard these sounds in Havana have described slightly different sounds, and even in some of the recordings that the AP has reviewed, there are slight variations. However, this high-pitched cricket sound seems to appear in all of them. The U.S. Embassy in Havana has played these recordings for Americans who are working there so they know what to listen to. These recordings have also been reviewed by people who heard the sounds firsthand in Cuba, and they confirm that the recordings are generally consistent with what they heard.
Targeted by psychotronic frequency bombardment?
Well, I wouldn't know anything about that, sir.
They're beaming things at my head.
Well...
You're gonna show me how I can prove that.
Well, if I was the one being targeted, as you say, I'd try one of these. Any of those beams might interfere with the reception.
You mean like static?
Yes, sir.
That's a little strange. It's a cultist Harry Potter glass. Well, it's just glasses. Yeah, that's fine. I think Martha said something too, like, I don't care, I respect these people, but, these are just a pair of glasses, that I wear.
Gang stalking is demonic. I saw a man's eyes turn to slits. I heard demonic voices on the phone. People had knowledge of hidden things about my person. Of course, Satanists and occultists will therefore be present on forums like this, and they know full well you are suspecting the spiritual aspect of it all. This is why they must pretend to be Christians in some sectors, as they know those going through it will sense that deeply in their spirit. It's just that they will tell you that
you're a victim of felony crimes.
On December 31st, 2015, I woke up with a horrible noise in my left ear. Wow. And things got progressively worse with other symptoms of depression and anxiety.
Wow.
And then my whole body felt like it was shutting down.
Wow.
My
So in a matter of months?
In a matter of weeks.
Matter of weeks.
Okay. Yeah. The first week, it was just the noise. The second week, I started feeling the anxiety and depression.
Wow.
And the weeks following, I couldn't sleep. I didn't sleep for 2.5 weeks.
Wow.
Then I got depression and anxiety, and my whole body was shutting down. My stomach quit working the way it's supposed to.
Yeah.
I couldn't think clear. My mind was all fuzzy all the time. I feel dizzy.
That this technology is being used against them. And that is one of my main concerns and one of the reasons why I want to bring more light to this technology and to this issue, because this technology could potentially be being used against tens to hundreds of millions of Americans every day. I've mentioned in some of my podcasts how there are field effects where they will not direct this technology at an individual, but create a general field of frequency in a geographical area so that everybody that within that geographical area is feeling the effects of the technology. It's more of a general application of the technology instead of an individual specific application of the technology. But when you consider that use of it and the fact that it is used for emotion and thought and behavior modification, then we could potentially be looking at many, many millions of people across the country that are under the influence of the technology today, right now. The area of the geographical areas that I'm familiar with are limited to the size of maybe a downtown area of a city, so that the frequency that's being emitted by the device will have an effect on a geographical location, let's say downtown Seattle. And so what they can do is within this general field, they can broadcast a frequency that affects human beings within that frequency field and can induce a general mood of, let's say, happiness or sadness, anger, agitation, peacefulness. And in this way, they can have an overall effect in the city. And I have seen this done, and it is remarkable how effective it is, because you will walk down the street of Seattle and literally see people all in a bad mood, all at the same time, and they do not know each other. And then you go over a block or two to a different office building, and you walk in, and the exact same thing's going on there. It's very, very concerning. So within that, then, that overall bubble or area of frequency where everybody, let's say, is in a bad mood, they can still inject what would be a individual-specific frequency to the targeted individual themselves, let's say the homeless person in Seattle that's being experimented on 24 hours a day. So they will be under the influence of the general agitated mood or bad mood that everybody else is in, and then they can more further be manipulated by the frequency that's being directed solely at them.
Who is this?
Mr. Bishop, there's nowhere left to run. There's nowhere left to hide.
What do you want from me?
To finish the experiment.
What kind of sick bastards are you?
Pragmatist, Mr. Bishop. If we didn't invent the technology, somebody else would. You're simply helping us tame the genie, so to speak.